Hi, my name is Martica Heaner, and I am an adjunct associate professor of nutrition at Hunter College in New York, although I'm currently based in Houston, Texas. And I'm also an exercise physiologist and group fitness instructor and a health writer. I'm here today with Hippocrates Docs to challenge you to do just one thing for your health. And that thing is to analyze your diet. Often we are discouraged from tracking our diet and counting calories and that sort of thing. Some people think that's a negative approach to watching what you eat. But in fact, it's a very useful tool, and it's really important to do on occasion to basically see if you're meeting your micronutrient needs. So I'm going to explain this a little bit more. I'm going to share my screen with you. And it's a well-known phenomenon in research that we tend to have a rosy view of our health behaviors. So when people are asked what they eat, they tend to report that they eat more healthy foods than they do. And they tend to report that they do more exercise than they do. And there have been studies that have validated this, where they've actually asked people about their behaviors, and then they've actually measured and tracked and monitored their behaviors. And there tends to be a discrepancy. And there's a lot of reasons why. But for that reason, we have to be careful when looking at research studies, health research studies, and nutrition research as to how they collected the information about a person's diet or exercise behaviors. But we can fall prey to this ourselves. We tend to think we are healthier than we are. I was working with someone one time, and she told me she ate fruit nearly every day. Well, it turns out once we actually tracked her food intake, the only fruit she ate was the teeny bit of fruit at the bottom of her yogurt. So in fact, she wasn't eating any fruit at all, but in her mind, she thought she was. So it's a really good idea to analyze your health habits. And the one thing that you want to be on the look for, we tend to focus on the macronutrients, those nutrients in our foods that give us energy, fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. Everybody's worried that they're not getting enough protein. They're worried that they might be eating too many carbohydrates. And then we have different theories about fat. But, really, the thing that we don't want to overlook is our micronutrients and our fiber. And in fact, micronutrients, no matter how you eat, it's very common to be deficient in a lot of them. And so this is just a little depiction showing the different nutrients that we get from our food, that we need to get from our food in order for our body to function properly. So the micronutrients, all the vitamins that you see listed here, all the minerals, and also phytochemicals, the different plant compounds. There are thousands of them. This is just a sample of a few that you may have heard of. They all are compounds that are needed for all the cells in our body to do their thing. So for every organ, every system, we need these nutrients so that our body functions properly. And fiber, it's now recognized, is really important, not just for helping our bowel movements, but for feeding the bacteria that live in our bodies, known collectively as the microbiome. We tend to worry about protein, but what is really the more important number, rather than your total protein, is, are you getting enough of the essential amino acids? And these are those types of proteins that we must get in our food, because the other amino acids our body can make as long as you have these essential amino acids. And our hair and skin, as well as our hormones and enzymes, are all made from proteins. So we need to make sure we are getting these from our diet. And fiber. There's a national fiber crisis. The average American or average adult eats about 15 grams a day, eating a standard diet. The recommendation is about double that. There is actually no upper limit. And when we look at cultures who eat a mostly whole food plant-based diet, they're getting up to 100 grams a day. And a whole food plant-based vegan, depending on how much they eat, and that's a factor of how much you exercise and how big of a person you are, will get about 50 to 100 pounds a day. So keeping that in mind, if you are a whole food plant-based eater or a vegan who is getting only about 20 or 30 grams of fiber a day, it's actually an indicator that you're eating a lot of processed foods. And it's also a good marker that you're probably low in many of your micronutrients. So the solution to the problem of being potentially deficient in fiber and or micronutrients, as well as some of your macros, essential amino acids, is to analyze your diet. And so in the olden days, we used to write it down on a piece of paper, keep a log, and then we'd have to look up every single nutrient, and it was a very tedious process. Now we have apps that can do it, and you can use these apps on your computer, so you can actually write it down and carry a pad around with you or take notes on your phone, and then you can transfer it to your computer, or usually there's phone apps now that most of the apps on the computer have. So this is a list of a few that are very commonly used. I like to use Cronometer. I think it's an excellent app, and I use it with my students that I teach and also people I consult with. And this is just a little glimpse here. So we know that the paleo diet, it's considered to be a healthier form of the standard American diet, a healthier form of a meat-eating diet. I went to a paleo website where they were giving menu plans, and I just took one of their days worth of menus, and I plugged it all in with the appropriate serving sizes, and this is the nutritional output. There was plenty of protein on this diet, but as you can see here, the vitamins, there were many vitamins that were deficient, and you can see this is a Cronometer output. You can see that all the things that are yellow, all the bars that are yellow, those vitamin needs weren't met 100%. So minerals, you can see there's a few minerals that are low on this paleo diet, which is calcium, iron, magnesium, and potassium. And this diet consisted of eggs and salmon and chicken and meatballs and then a few vegetables thrown in. And then the most interesting thing is a lot of times paleo people think they're eating a high fiber diet because they're eating more vegetables than the average standard American diet eater. But in fact, this typical paleo day, they only got 7 grams of fiber. So that was even half of what the person eating a standard American diet going to Burger King would get. So in fact, there's a lot of problems with this diet. Yes, there's plenty of protein on this diet, and I'm not showing you those results, but it's still pretty micronutrient deficient. And 1 or 2 days of this wouldn't matter, but if you go through months of eating like this, your body is going to be impaired. So a vegan, sometimes we tend to think just because we're cutting out the animal foods, we're getting a healthy diet, but that's not always the case because more and more we can eat lots of vegan processed foods now that they're making a substitute for everything. So this is just a typical, vegan diet that actually starts with some coffee with creamer and a muffin in the morning, and then some black beans with tofutti and some veggies on top and some go veggie cheese shreds and potato chips, and then dinner, some cookies and kombucha, and then some peanut butter cups. So a lot of candy and cookies and, a few beans in there, a few veggies in there. But overall, if we look at the nutritional output, we see a lot of yellow, low in a lot of minerals, low in some vitamins, and actually low in protein and the essential amino acids. So this list here is the essential amino acids, and you can see with most of them, they haven't reached, or all of them haven't reached 100% of the quota. And what I did with these different comparisons is I just took about an 1,800 calorie day for foods. So by eating more, you could boost those up, and some people would naturally eat more. But a woman who is trying to diet might not. And then look at the, although you're probably not dieting if you're eating cookies and potato chips, but look at the fiber on this one. It's 32 grams. And that's, as you can see, green, and it's over 100% of the recommended amount. But in fact, we can see from the nutritional output of this diet, this is quote high fiber, but it's not really because it's an indication of junk food vegan, basically eating a lot of processed food. So this is a whole food plant-based day, starting the day with some potatoes with pepper and seasonings, oatmeal and grapefruit with chia seeds and blueberries, and 2 dates to sweeten it, a Ezekiel bread sandwich with hummus and spinach, and a banana and a peach, and brown rice with black beans, broccoli, some carrot sticks. So it's a really full, healthy sounding day. Let's look at the nutritional output. In fact, there's a few areas, not many, that appear to be deficient. Now, over different days, you're going to balance out. That's why you want to take more than 1 day of a sample. But, and this diet actually met all the protein and all the essential amino acid needs. I'm not showing you that data. But this is just demonstrating how it is possible to be eating what you think are healthy foods and assuming you're meeting all your micronutrient needs. And in fact, you might be low. So my challenge to you is to choose a food app to use, analyze your diet, choose the food app, and then track your diet for 7 days, review the results, and then tweak what you see, tweak what you eat, increase portions, add new foods, substitute in order to meet your micronutrient and overall nutrient needs. So here's just a few tips. Do track for more days rather than fewer. 7 days is a typically accepted amount of time because it allows you to balance out if you have 1 or 2 abnormal days where maybe you ate more than usual or less than usual, or you were in some strange setting at a party and you ate things you wouldn't normally eat. So we're ideally trying to capture a picture of your normal dietary intake. So the more days you track, the more accurate your nutrient analysis will be. And if you could track it for 2 weeks, that's great too. Just be aware of the longer you track, you tend to eat more healthfully, make better choices because you're so aware that you're entering your foods into something and you're accountable for them. So try to just capture yourself as is before you start improving. Also, enter in individual ingredients rather than a dish. So these apps all give you, choices. And so you might plug in lasagna and get a lot of lasagna choices. If you can, try to break down the ingredients of an item like a lasagna or a vegetable curry or whatever it is, and try to estimate the amount of beans in there, the amount of greens, the amount of oil, whatever it is you're eating. It's going to be a little bit more accurate, and especially when we're trying to capture the smaller amounts of micronutrients, the more precise we can be, the better. And if you can weigh things, that's great too. So some of the apps will give you a choice of different databases to choose from. So whatever item you enter, so you might enter, any kind of food, and then you'll get a bunch of choices come up. Now, if you choose a branded food, then you're going to get the nutritional output that is on the label of that food. And what that means is you're going to be missing most of your micronutrients and all of your essential amino acids and some of your fatty acids, like the omega-3 fats. All you'll get is what's on this label. So you'll get actually vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium, but not any of the other vitamins and minerals. And we actually want to look and see what you're getting. So this is a Cronometer reading where Brazil nuts were entered. Trader Joe's brand Brazil nuts were entered. And as you can see right here, it says that there's 17 listed nutrients. So that's actually more than it's on the label. But then there's a little note that pops up and it says, want better data? We found a similar food with 76 listed nutrients. So if you were to choose Brazil nuts unsalted rather than Trader Joe's Brazil nuts, you would actually get a wider array of nutrients, and that would be a better reflection of your nutrient intake. So this is just an example on the Cronometer. Different apps will work differently, but when you put in, say, black-eyed peas, you get these choices that come up, and then you can see the source, where each item comes from, where the nutritional data comes from. And you can see there's different sources. ESHA, NCCDB, different databases. And this is entering it again, and sometimes you might have to search. So under black-eyed peas, cowpeas with black-eyed peas came up. And then you get the USDA database. And the USDA database is going to be the most comprehensive, along with the NCC database. So when you have the choice, try to choose the one that's going to give you the most nutrients, because then that will be a more accurate reflection. Once you get your nutritional output, if you're looking at Cronometer, you're going to get something like this. And you can see there's lots of green, so that means good. You're meeting 100% or more of your quotas for the different essential nutrients. But if you spot some yellow, then you want to look at that and see, oh, what it is. And, what is it and how can I improve it? So in this picture, selenium and sodium are below 100%. Now, selenium is easy. All you need to do is eat one Brazil nut and you'll likely meet your selenium needs for the day, like pop it like a vitamin. Sodium, you don't necessarily need to reach 100% of the recommended amount, because that's a little bit debatable. And unless you're exercising a lot, you don't necessarily need more salt, and especially if you are watching salt for hypertension or that kind of thing. So once you get your results, you'll want to either increase the foods you're eating that are giving you the nutrient you're potentially low in, add new foods that will give you some of that nutrient that you're potentially low in, and substitute some of the foods that are giving you things that you might not want as much of, such as saturated fat or trans fat. Substitute those foods with something that's healthier that might give you the nutrients that you're low in. So in Cronometer, different apps work differently. All you need to do is tap on the value of any nutrient you're wondering about. So let's say you were low in protein. Now this is 100 grams of protein, so most likely this is not going to be low in protein, but you can see all the foods that contributed to the total protein amount. So you can see that the black-eyed peas provided 36 grams of protein, and I believe that was 1.5 cups of black-eyed peas, or maybe it was 2 cups, but anyway, I forgot. Oatmeal, that provided 10 grams of protein. Kale provided 10 grams. Broccoli, potatoes, cashews, asparagus, chia seeds, avocados even provided some protein. So that's how you get protein on a whole food plant-based diet. And a lot of people don't believe that you can. But you can click on any of these essential amino acids and the same thing will pop up. You can click on a mineral. So with selenium, you can see all of the sources of selenium that contributed to this total amount. So when you are low in something, you click on that value, and then you can see, okay, Brazil nuts, well, maybe I'll eat 2 instead of 1, or maybe I'll eat some extra banana, or whatever it is you might need to eat more of. Or you can just look up a whole new food, and that could be a simple Google or Bing search to find a nutrient and foods that you might like that contain that nutrient, that are especially high in it, and just add that and or substitute it for something else that you're going to remove if you need to decrease some nutrients, such as if you're high in trans fats or saturated fats. So my challenge to you is to analyze your diet, choose a diet app that works for you, preferably on your phone, so you can track what you eat as you go. That's going to be more accurate. Try to weigh things, try to be as precise as possible, enter ingredients rather than whole menu items, and do it for as long as possible. I recommend at least 7 days. Review your results, look at your output, and spot where you need to improve. Then find ways to increase the foods you are already eating, the portions, to give you a little bit more of those nutrients. Add new foods that might give you more of those nutrients, and substitute some of these new foods for some of the foods you might want to eat less of. And I would recommend doing this every 9 months or so. It's good to keep on track. If you are actually trying to lose weight, or you're trying to just stay motivated because you're trying to perhaps reverse a health condition, then it's a good idea to do it on a regular basis. And sometimes it becomes a tedious thing. So you might want to take 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, but it does keep you on track because you're very accountable to entering in what you eat. And you know you're going to have to, look at it and face up to it later. So it does help you make better choices. So good luck with that.